All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube station? We're back. April 19th, Friday night. Got my guy Hamwich with me like we do every Monday, every Friday, the bookend squad here. Looking to run it back, looking to have another great weekend of baseball ahead. It's been a great week thus far. Hamwich, I'll bring you in, man. Happy Friday. How's everything? What's up, brother?
Yeah, what's going on? It's another Friday, another day, a 10-game slate on both sites, I believe. I don't think we have any weather, Nate. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but should be a good one. Enjoyed my week. Now heading to the weekend. It's rainy here in Nashville, but overall, great week. Let's talk some baseball.
Rainy here in Nashville. Crimea River as we're sitting in 47 degrees here and about 20-mile-an-hour winds up in Wisconsin. So you can take that rain and you can just cry yourself right to sleep because I could care less about the little rain in Nashville. As long as it's nice when I'm there. Land about Thursday afternoon next week. So hopefully the weather's nice next week. But if you guys are new, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. And I have to mention it. SHIPIT Nation collaboration here. Little 4D partnership here over at the Nation. If you guys are currently a member at SHIPIT Nation, you get a free 1 week, free one-time usage over at 4D. Check out their bets. They crush the sports betting side over here. Their DFS side has joined in our Discord over here, dropping cores in the Discord over here, crushing it there. So check them out for bets. Anything you need betting wise, you get 20% off any membership plan using that code SHIPIT, or just go to shipitnation.com/4deep. Get you access to that. And if you are currently a member, like I said, you do get a free week to test them out over there. Give them a look. Guy Tommy G and the squad continue to crush it on the betting side over there. So we appreciate that. These shows are sponsored by 4Deep. So do need to run that off the top. And if you want to be a member and you're not a member yet, use that promo code HOOP15, gets you 15% off any membership plan you do choose. We got you covered for each and every sport, as you see on there. You heard of them multiple times, a million different times, right? We got projections, content, much like everybody else does. But what we also have is members continue to crush, even on single bullet, shipping Millie's over here. He did a nice Millie Maker interview with Hoop and Tambo Wednesday this week. If you want to rewatch that, about the first 30 minutes of that golf show over there. Check out Churn's interview there. Many other guys. Get in the Discord. Use that promo code HOOP15. Join the winners today. Cheapest all-in rate in the industry. Using that promo code, monthly package for all access takes it down to about $2 a day. No better deal in the industry. I want to say hi to a couple people in chat before we jump into pitchers. How much here? Lone Wolf, what's going on, man? Lance, Gator, Richie, Jake, King of Smack, Jeffrey, Don. Everybody in here, appreciate you guys joining on this Friday afternoon. Hopefully you guys had a great week. Hopefully you guys have a good night ahead in the DFS streets here. But how much? I'm going to throw it over to you. We're going to talk pitchers like we always do, 8K and above on this slate, which don't really have anyone in the 8K range. It's all upper 8Ks and then up into the 9K. Want to throw out a couple of guys for you. Number one, Joe Ryan in that game there, which I like both pitchers in that game. Definitely going to talk about it. Joe Ryan coming in. Probably about 40 to 45% owned here. And then talk about Freddie Peralta. You got Yamamoto up there all the way at the top at 9,600. Gets that matchup against the Mets there as the most expensive pitcher. Talk about any Chris Sale, any other guys in this range that you're looking at 8K and above, 87 and above, I should say.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that we don't have anybody, like you said, 8,000 to 8,600. We normally do, but this is an interesting range. I'm going to eliminate Jordan Montgomery at 9,200. I'll just start there. No Monty for me, making his Diamondbacks debut, and just don't think he's going to have the pitch count or the strikeouts to get there. So no Monty for me. Chris Sale is my favorite pitcher in this range, $9,400. Really like Chris Sale. Obviously like his strikeout upside. I think he can get to this Rangers lineup. It's not easy by any stretch, but Chris Sale been rocking and rolling this year, would be my favorite pitcher in this range. Number two for me would be your boy, Fastball Freddie Peralta, 9,500. Really like him, really at that price. This Cardinals team just not hitting. all season long for the most part. Divisional game, divisional rivalry. But I like Freddie to rack up those strikeouts. And then last in this range would be Joe Ryan, $8,900, taking on this feeble Tigers team who did put up 7 runs yesterday against the Rook. Jack Leiter, ruined a bunch of teams I saw in the Discord, but I would have Joe Ryan ranked third out of this range. If I was going to give you one kind of off-the-wall pick, it would be Sean Manaea at 9,000. Taking on the Dodgers, obviously. It's Friday night. It's the Dodgers. I get all that, but I love Manaea's strikeout upside that he possesses. He would kind of be my wild card if I was going there, but he's a distant fourth in this range for me.
Yeah, no, excellent breakdown. I do tend to agree with you a little bit here. My ranking, Freddie Peralta is number 1 for me. I'm not a believer in this Cardinals offense right now. It is a pitcher's ballpark. The weather is decent for pitching out there in St. Louis here tonight. And the thing with Freddie always had this elite strikeout upside. He struggled with command a little bit. His command so far this season has looked to be pretty well in check. His strikeout stuff is still there. I think he's an elite fantasy producer here. I love him tonight. He's my top pitcher, 9,500. I'm finding every way I can do to get in Freddie Peralta. In a real-world ideal scenario, I'd like to pair him with one of those pitchers in Minnesota, either Joe Ryan or Jack Flaherty. Probably going to be a pretty chalky construction there, but just hard for me to ignore the spot for Freddie. So he's my top. If you're looking for a pivot off of Yamamoto, off of Freddie, off of Joe Ryan, I think going to your guy, right, Chris Sale, 9,400, should have some run support behind him in Atlanta here. Like the matchup. Rangers, there is some strikeouts, especially on the road against left-handed pitching in there. Obviously, they have some lefty mashers in there, right? Adolis Garcia, Langford's hit lefties pretty good. Zeke Duran has hit lefties pretty good. But Chris Sale has looked pretty good this season, 28.2% strikeout rate this season, limits hard contact. I do think he has a ceiling to match some of these guys up at the top. So if I was looking for a pivot up here, it'd be Chris Sale. But Freddie Peralta's 1A by himself, all alone. For me, a distant second would be Chris Sale. And then third is going to be Joe Ryan. I mean, the matchup just can't get any better for Joe Ryan. He faces Detroit here at home in 40-degree weather. I mean, I don't know about you, Hamlich, but when you make contact with a baseball with a wood bat, and these guys are throwing 95-plus miles an hour, and that baseball doesn't hit the sweet spot of that bat, your hands are going to be stinging a little bit in 40-degree weather. So love Joe Ryan. That's it for me up here at the top. I think you could play a Yamamoto just because I'm not a believer in this Mets team. He should have run support behind him. Overall, I'm not really worried about this Mets lineup in terms of power getting to Yamamoto there overall, but he has given up a lot of hard contact. And with him being the most expensive pitcher on the slate, I'd just much rather save the $100 or the $200 and go down to Peralta or Chris Sale, or just go down to Joe Ryan for about $1,000 cheaper overall. So for me, up at the top, it's a very limited pool. It's Freddie Peralta, it's Joe Ryan, and then it's Chris Sale as a distant third behind those two. Let's go below those guys. So 7,900 and below. I do want to throw out a couple of names. Number 1, Clark Schmidt against the Rays. I see some talk about the Rays against Clark Schmidt here as the kind of GPP winning stack that they're talking about here. I actually have some interest in Clark Schmidt if I was looking for some additional options here. To touch on Clark Schmidt, obviously touch on Jack Flaherty, who is significantly underpriced here in this matchup. Same weather environment against the Twins, 7,700. He's looked good this season. Definitely going to be the chalky SP2. So touch on him. And then any other guys you have interest in, especially the 5K guy, Yariel Rodriguez, making his second major league start here in San Diego at just 5K flat, allows you to pretty much do whatever you want from a bats standpoint.
Yeah, let's start with Clark Schmidt. And I'm out on Clark Schmidt, Nades, assuming this Rays lineup is what we think it's going to be. Clark Schmidt, very good against left-handed hitting, striking out over 37% of lefties. And what do the Rays do? They counter that by trotting out 7 righties in that lineup where he's only striking out sub 15%. So assuming that holds, I'll be out on Clark Schmidt. I'll just go down to what I think is a much better play, much safer play. That and Jack Flaherty taking on this Twins team that's just been absolutely abysmal at home versus right-handed pitching. You alluded to the weather that we're expected to get in the Twin Cities. I think Jack Flaherty at $7,700, that's about as good as it gets, Nate. So give me some Jack Flaherty over Clark Schmidt. And really, there's not much else in this range that I can see beating those names that we already alluded to. You talk about Rodriguez. I'll pass on Rodriguez. I don't think I'm going there not against this San Diego team. I know they've been struggling. Your Brew Crew shut them down for the most part this past week. But man, they got some good bats in that lineup, and a guy making his first start and this might even be his first start on the road, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I'm out on Rodriguez, but could certainly understand it if you wanted to get to him at that 5K to allow you to get some of those big boy bats in there.
Yeah, the point is not being a believer in Rodriguez. I mean, the thing is he's a $5,000 starting pitcher that definitely has enough talent to be a major league starter is what I'm looking at. So 5K flat. I mean, you're not looking for him to go out there and get you 20 plus DraftKings points. I mean, if he gets you 12 to 15 at 5K, it allows you to do a lot with the bats. If he can get me up to about 80 pitches, I think he threw about 63 pitches in her first start, something like that. If he can get up to the 75, 80 pitch mark and get me 5 innings, maybe a 6 inning, limits the damage. Even if he gives up a run or two, gets me 2 or 3, 4 strikeouts, something like that, gets me 12 to 15 DraftKings points. I think that's plenty on a slate like this. So I do like him down at the bottom if I am punting. Hard for me to ignore Jack Flaherty. I can't really poke holes in him. I don't mind pairing Joe Ryan and Jack Flaherty. Something I like to do, especially on DraftKings, use both your pitchers up from the same game, especially in a game that's definitely pitcher friendly here in that park in Miami or Minnesota, 40 degrees there. Kind of wind. The wind doesn't really matter. I know wind was slightly blowing out, I think, last time I looked, but it's still 40 degrees, so I'm not worried about that. Do have a little interest in Clark Schmidt. I see some mixed feelings. I know you're off of Clark Schmidt. I'm on Clark Schmidt. I'm just a believer in our SP rankings over here at the Nation. He's currently ranked our number 1 pitcher. I get it. It is a limited sample size with this Rays, but I mean, the back half of that lineup, I mean, Cabrera, Curtis Mead, Rotovet. I mean, there's a lot of strikeouts in this lineup overall. So, and just not a lot of power. And Clark Schmidt should have run support. I don't mind the Yankees offense a little bit. So I do have some interest in Clark Schmidt. It's hard to make a case for him at 7,900 when Jack Flaherty is 7,700, but that's also why ownership is going to be significantly different there. And then the only other guy I would bring up is Joe Boyle here, 6,700. If you don't want to punt all the way down to Rodriguez here, Boyle gets a matchup against Cleveland here, which typically I don't like to attack too much just because they're a pretty low strikeout team. But with that, they have a lot of low power overall. And in the limited sample, I mean, you got 10 plate appearances for the back half of this lineup, 45% strikeouts, 42% strikeouts for 4 hitters in the back half of that lineup in their plate appearances this year at home against right-handed pitching. Joe Boyle looked pretty good so far. He has about a 25% strikeout rate this season. Very, very limited on hard contact. So I think he can do enough at 6,700 to be a nice contrarian SP2 option off of Jack Flaherty. If you want to save the $1,000, drop down to Joe Boyle. Is it as safe as Flaherty is? No, absolutely not. But the ownership's going to be sub 5% versus probably 20 to 30% ownership on Jack Flaherty. So I'll go ahead and rank my pitchers. Freddie Peralta is number 1 for me. Joe Ryan 2, Jack Flaherty 3. Outside of that, I think Joe Boyle and Rodriguez and Clark Schmidt will round out kind of the top 6. But I really, really like, if perfect world, if I can stick with Peralta, Joe Ryan, and Flaherty here. I know that's kind of a chalky route, but that's just the way I'm seeing it. I can get different with a little bit of bats here. Those are my top 3 pitchers by far. And then I would filter in the Boyles, the Rodriguezes, and the Schmidts around those guys. But I'll throw it over to you. Go ahead and rank your top 5 pitchers or so before we go game by game.
Yeah, Snell 1, Peralta 2, Joe Ryan 3, and then I'm going to cut it off at Jack Flaherty 4. Very tight pitcher pool for me tonight, not going anywhere else. On this slate, I do want to mention, we talked about a little bit before the show, Tristan McKenzie not looking right. I would X him out of the player pool. I don't think he's in play tonight, even against these Athletics. So to me, McKenzie's out and Montgomery's out based on his pitch count. But it's a tight pitcher pool for me, only going 4 deep tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And like I said, I mean, I can see a case where you just play those 3 pitchers, dude, and maybe throw in a Boyle or a Rodriguez to make it a 4 pitcher to have a cheaper pitcher in there, just to allow a little bit more flexibility with your stacks. But if I was doing MME tonight, I think I would limit it to those 4 pitchers and just kind of go in on those guys and hope my bats can kind of get me there is what I'm looking at. So overall, I think we agree there on the pitching. Before we go game by game, I see some more people joining in the chat here. If you guys haven't yet, head over to shipitnation.com. If you're not a member, use that promo code HOOP15. Get you 15% off any membership package you do choose for life. If you do pick the monthly all access pass, it takes it down to about $2 a day after that promo code. About $58 a month there. Promo code HOOP15. Join the winners. And then if you need your bets, head over to 4Deep. Use that promo code SHIPIT. Get you 20% off any membership over there. And if you are currently a member, you can go over there and get a free week trial to test it out, one-time use, just to see what they have. Tommy G and the squad over there continue to print money in the betting industry, so definitely check those guys out. Hamwich, throw it right back to you. We're going to talk about the game, the Clark Schmidt game right there. Tampa, New York. Clark Schmidt on the mound, Tyler Alexander, and likely a bullpen game behind him on the Rays. Talk about these Yankees side. I definitely like these Yankees quite a bit. Every time you see a lefty on the mound, you have to give boost to guys by the name of Aaron Judge, Stanton, Gleyber Torres, Trevino. A lot of lefty mashers in this lineup. Implied to score over 5 runs here. Looking pretty good to me is these Yankees, but touch on any Rays. I know you didn't have interest in Clark Schmidt. Does that mean you're on some of these Rays bats? Break this one down. Do you think this is a pretty decent game for offense here?
Yeah, I would agree with you on the Yankees. I love the Yankees tonight going up against the soft tossing Tyler Alexander, striking out less than 20% of batters on the road this season. I think the Yankees are squarely in play back home. Obviously, you got the big three, Soto, Judge, and Stanton. Stanton has had a pretty decent year with the power, been hot lately. I know he went yard in Toronto earlier in the week, and always Judge, always capable of going double dong. I would limit it to 1 through 6, really. I'll say it every day on this show. Alex Verdugo is not a major league caliber hitter anymore. Would not get him in there, would not get Trevino in there, and would X out Cabrera as well. It's 1 through 6 for me, but the Yankees are one of my top 3 favorite stacks tonight. And then on the flip side, it would just be the righties, which I said they're going to have 7. Randy Arozarena missed yesterday, but I do like him if he's back in the lineup. And Yandy Diaz at the top of the lineup would kind of be where I limited. I wouldn't full stack these guys by any stretch, but getting 27 outs, he struggles against righties. And if Clark Schmidt's popular, I definitely don't mind playing one of these. But yeah, love the Yankees 1 through 6. Then give me those top 2 for the Rays, just those righties.
Yeah, I like the Yankees quite a bit here as a full stack, and I'm actually going to throw back and give you a little feedback on Trevino. Looking at his numbers against lefties last season and this season, a 196 ISO, just a 4.8% strikeout rate. So he puts the ball in play here. And looking at Tyler Alexander against righties, I mean, he gives up about a 30% fly ball rate, expected ISO north of 200. I mean, Trevino at his price point in the stack to wrap it around to the top, because I love Volpe, I love Judge, I love Stanton, and I love Torres. Throwing Trevino in there at 2,800 at the catcher position, I mean, I don't hate that. So I do like him quite a bit. Alexander, lefty, struggles big time with a lot of power from lefties overall. 315 ISO against lefties. Strikeout rate just around 21%. Fly ball rate north of 52%. So tons of fly balls, tons of hard hits. So obviously Juan Soto fits that script very well. Anthony Rizzo is a solid option. So the only bats I'm really not in love with on this lineup is Verdugo and Cabrera. Outside of that, the other 7 hitters, I think mix and match them. Really love Stanton, really love Judge, really love Volpe. Those 3 are my favorite. And then you got a nice value Trevino there as well. On the flip side, on the Tampa Bay side, I have more interest in Clark Schmidt than it sounds like you do. So outside of just a punt, like a Siri or a Cabello down there at shortstop, 3,600, right? I don't have a ton of interest in stacking up these Rays. I just think Clark Schmidt's a solid enough real-life pitcher here. I think he's going to have a good outing here tonight. So I'm off the Rays personally on the Yankees. So we differ a little bit there. Let's jump to this next game here, Cleveland and Oakland. And I have a little bit of interest in the Athletics here. Looking at this lineup, I mean, like I said, we talked about Tristan McKenzie, pinched nerve, whatever he's dealing with there, right? He opted to not get Tommy John, kind of fighting through it, and he just does not look right now. So I'm going to stack no matter who is playing Tristan McKenzie. I'm just going to stack up against him, even if it is Oakland heading to town. I mean, you got Shea Langeliers, Lawrence Butler down there, Seth Brown. You got Giloff, Blade. They all hit righties very well overall, especially this season, especially on the road this season. Giloff's got a 409 ISO. Langlear's got a 711. Butler's got a 426. So I like some of these athletics a little bit. Talk about the athletics. Talk about the Guardians. Guardians do have a pretty high implied run total here against Joe Boyle, but I'm not going to do it. I do like Joe Boyle a little bit in tournaments as a cheap SP2.
Yeah, let's talk about this game a little bit. And Tristan McKenzie, you alluded to it. But, man, you nailed it last week when you talked about Gausman on this Friday night show. I was all in on Gausman. You poked holes in it, and you won that one, so I'll give you credit. I gave you credit Monday, but, Nades, I'm going to do you a favor and give you more credit for that Gausman call. To me, McKenzie's in the same boat. I mean, we're talking 2 miles per hour less on his fastball this year than last year. That fastball to lefties is getting absolutely annihilated. Give me Seth Brown for these athletics. Give me Ryan Noda for these athletics. Yeah, any lefty I like. I mean, McKenzie's striking out less than 10% from both sides of the plate. But, yeah, Giloff I like. Seth Brown I like. Noda I like. You said Butler. Absolutely. The Butler's going to do it tonight. So, yeah, give me these athletics. On the flip side, don't really like any of these. I'm not going to stack these Guardians. I think we talked about it every slate last time, but it's tough for them to hit the long ball. The only one I would have interest in would obviously be Jose Ramirez. Certainly don't mind him as a one-off at the third base position. But, yeah, it's A's for me. Let's pick on T-Mac tonight and give me some J-Ram on the flip.
Yeah, no, I like these late A's. Start with the lefties, right? I don't think Toro is terrible at third base, right? 2,900 bat and leadoff, guaranteed ninth inning at bat, switch hitter there. So from a splits perspective, even if they throw a lefty out of the pen after McKenzie gets beat around, hopefully he should be fine, right? He'll just jump sides of the plate. But love me some Seth Brown, love me some JJ Bleday, love Lawrence Butler at just 2,100, tons of power there. And actually, over his 11 plate appearances on the road this season against right-handed pitching, he's striking out under 10% with a ton of power. So I do love that. Shea Langlear is one of my favorite catcher plays on the slate at 3,400. Ryan Noda down there. I mean, if you want a cheap, unowned stack that doesn't break the bank at all, going to Butler, Langlear's, and Noda stack, you get one outfield spot filled up, a catcher and a first base filled up. You can really, literally do anything else you want with your 5-man stack because that will be an unowned stack there. That's one way to get different. All you need in baseball is one difference. I mean, you can play chalk everywhere and have 1-2% owned hitter, hits you a home run, hits you a double home run, and I mean, you're sitting good. So I love those three hitters a ton. Wrap it around to the top: Giloff, Bleday, Seth Brown. I do like these athletics. I think they're in play for a 5-man stack here tonight. If you want to double spend a pitcher and then maybe 3-man Braves offense, right, or a Dodgers offense with the expensive hitters. That's one way to do it. So I do like the athletics. On the Guardian side, Josh Naylor would be my favorite guy, just a power hitting lefty against Joe Boyle here. Obviously you see the Guardians rolled out all but one lefty in turn when you include the switch hitters here to target Joe Boyle, right? Because he does struggle against lefties, low strikeout, has a high walk rate to lefties as well. But he limits hard contact, limits power, and you talk about it, right? You want home runs in daily fantasy sports for baseball. It's just not something I'm going to. So Josh Naylor, Jose Ramirez would be fine for me. But outside of that, my interest is on the athletic side of that game, which is definitely going to be a contrarian route. Could go south in a hurry, but, man, they don't break the bank at all, and they can definitely get there. So I do like them tonight here. Let's jump over to Atlanta, Texas here in Truist Park. Rangers come to town. Heaney on the mound, Chris Sale on the mound. Two decent real-life pitchers. Definitely Heaney is very, very attackable. And you got one of the best offenses in baseball to attack left-handed pitching with by the likes of Ronald Acuna, Austin Riley, Ozuna, who is absolutely on fire right now, Duvall, TDA. I mean, the Braves offense loaded it with righties to attack the splits of Heaney here. Touch on this one, touch on the Braves. They are very expensive to stack up. And definitely mention Orlando Arcia all the way up batting second tonight at 4K flat at the shortstop position.
Yeah, he's going to be super popular. Yeah, Andrew, sharp as they come, put it in the chat. Arcia batting second. Harris down back in the 6th or 7th hole, I believe, lefty. So they backed him up. Arcia is going to be popular. His Braves team is going to be popular. You said it was 40 degrees earlier, Nades, in Minnesota. It's cold everywhere, I feel like, tonight, except the ATL. It's 80 degrees there tonight. Ball should be flying out of the park. Braves team always popular, coming back home to the friendly confines. Yeah, give me these righties. Andrew Heaney has been absolutely terrible this season. These right-handed Braves are going to be popular. I think you can stack pretty much 1 through 9 with these Braves. On the flip side, Chris Sale's my number one pitcher on today's slate. The only one-off I would even remotely think about having would be Adolis Garcia if you were fading sell and wanted to get some action on those Rangers. But yeah, it's lock and load these Braves 1 through 9, and then Adolis Garcia if you're fading sell, I think is a safe, okay one-off for the Rangers.
I'll give you probably my favorite three-man stack on the entire slate is going to be Duvall, Ozuna, and Austin Riley. They all are extreme power-hitting righties with fly ball rates north of 35%, almost 40% against the pitcher in Andrew Heaney, who struggles against hard-hitting righties, right? Gives up about a 200 ISO and a fly ball rate north of 34%. Give me Duvall, give me Ozuna, give me Austin Riley. Duvall has a nice price point. Ozuna, Austin Riley. I mean, that three-man stack right there, 3, 5, 6. Love that three-man. Build around it. Love those guys. You can obviously throw in the other guys in the lineup, right? Matt Olson's fine. Lefty don't matter against that, right? I don't expect Heaney to be in there very long. I think these Braves knock him around. 1 through 9 firmly in play, but my three favorite bats are Ozuna, Duvall, and Austin Riley. Obviously, Orlando Arcia is fine. Acuna, you can play him any day ending in Y. The rest of the team, stack them up any which way. Love the Braves here, but I really like the Braves tonight as a three-man stack because when we talked about pitching, right, I like spending up at pitching here tonight, and especially if you want Peralta, you want Sale, you want Joe Ryan, two of those three. I mean, you're not going to be able to five-man this Braves in a way that's going to be different than everyone else just because everyone's going to include those value guys down at the bottom like the TDAs, the Fletchers, the Arcias, and then throwing two of those power bats. You kind of stack, you kind of run in the same roster construction everyone else does. So love the Braves. No Rangers for me against Chris Sale. I like Chris Sale as a pivot at the top tier pitching. So no Rangers here. I like playing the Rangers at home more against a righty than targeting them on the road against a good pitcher in Chris Sale, left-hander as well. Let's jump over to another very good game here from Bats. I have interest in both sides of this one. Coors Field 2.0 here. We got both, the best of both worlds. We got Coors Field number 1 and Coors Field number 2 here on the same slate. We got Kauffman Stadium, Kansas City Royals, Baltimore Orioles, Dean Kramer on the mound, who's looked absolutely horrendous to start the year. And then Alec Marsh, a low strikeout pitcher, does limit hard contact, but these Orioles got some massive power guys in there, massive power hitting lefties that approach those splits of a guy like Alec Marsh, Gunnar Henderson, Ryan O'Hearn, Santander. The list goes on and on. Talk about this one. I do think this is a very good game from Bats here in Kansas City.
Yeah, Coors Field 2.0 is going to play like Coors Field 1.0 tonight because it's going to be more high scoring than that game in Colorado. Yeah, you alluded to it. Both lineups I think are great. These pitchers can't strike anyone out. We got power up and down this lineup. Realistically, I think you could play 1 through 9 on the Orioles side, and then I don't mind stacking up 1 through 6 on this Royals side. Your boy Vinny P, who won you a bunch of money a couple weeks ago, he's squarely in play. I love that matchup. Dean Kramer can't get anybody out, especially lefties. So give me some Vinny P, give me some NJ Melendez. Nelson Velasquez looks great as well. I think this Royals team is going to kind of be sneaky, Nade. So I would lock and load them. And then, like I said, love this Orioles team as well, going up against Alec Marsh with Gunnar Henderson leading the way, of course. That's no surprise. He's a great play at the shortstop position.
Yeah, I mean, I love this Royals offense here. They're my third favorite stack. I did the slate plan over here at SHIPIT Nation. If you want access to that, use that promo code HOOP15. But love the Royals. I'm going to target these Royals anytime they're at home, pretty much all season long. They're just kind of a cheat code from daily fantasy. I know they're going to let you down a lot of times, but they have speed and power throughout the lineup. All they do is steal bases and hit home runs, and that's what you want in fantasy. Not to say the Royals are definitely a title contender by any means, but daily fantasy, that's all I care about. I love me some Nelson Velasquez, Perez, Vinny P, Melendez. I mean, Maikel Garcia's got good numbers up at the top. Michael Massey's back in that lineup at 2,900 at second base. That's a great value play there. I mean, Hunter Renfroe even down hitting 8th at 3,300. He's got a lot of power. Hit a home run a couple days ago. 1 through 9 firmly in play. My least favorite hitter is obviously Kyle Isbell there. Don't really like him. Don't even like Hunter Renfroe a ton. So top 7 batters mainly for me, but love the Royals all the way through. And then on the flip side, love me some Orioles as well. Looking at the numbers on Alec Marsh between this year and last year, about a 23% strikeout rate, definitely less to lefties. than righties. And if you look at this lineup that the Orioles rolled out 7 hitters that are going to start the game hitting from the left side of the plate here. He gives up a ton of power to both sides of the plate, low ground ball rate, high fly ball rate. Give me some Gunnar Henderson. Give me some Ryan O'Hearn. Love me some Seti Mullins down there hitting 6th. Colton Cowser, who's been great. I mean, that's a 2-man stack right there. That's very affordable, 3,800, 3,900. Both have a ton of power. Jordan Westberg at third base. I mean, I love this game, both sides. I think this is a viable game stack. Don't think I'm going to game stack on a 10-game slate here, but I like both these offenses a ton. 2 of my favorite offenses of the evening, like both sides. Let's jump to the next game, which I think is a very easy cross-off game in terms of bats. 2 of my favorite pitchers on the entire slate here. Detroit, Minnesota, Flaherty on the mound, Joe Ryan. Not much more for me to say about this one than we can keep this moving and jump to the next one. But do you see something I'm missing?
Yep. No, love both the pitchers as well. Just looking to see if there was anybody I could even remotely recommend in this game. I don't think there is. Maybe I'm not going to say him. Yeah, this game's a cross-off for me, Nades. I mean, looking at this Twins lineup and what they've done at home versus right-handed pitching, goodness gracious. No thank you in either one of this games, especially in 40-degree weather.
Yeah, that's enough for me to move on and move to this next game, which I also don't have a ton of interest in. If I did have interest, it would be on these Brewers against Kyle Gibson, who's looked horrendous to start the season here by the looks of Willy Adames, Rhys Hoskins, William Contreras. Those 3 hitters absolutely smash righties so far this season on the road in a lot of pretty big sample as well. So I don't mind these Brewers as kind of a mini stack contrarian here, but overall, not a game that I'm looking to go to for offense too much. If I did have interest, would be on the Brewers side. No interest on the Cardinals side. Freddie Peralta, my favorite pitcher on the slate. But talk to me, Milwaukee, St. Louis.
Yeah, I wish our guy Newens was in here, man. I'm going to give some love to the Brewers today. You and Newens always say I shit on Milwaukee. Hey, today we're loading up Milwaukee. They get 27 outs. They get a guy by the name of Kyle Gibson who couldn't get you out at the plate. I like me some Willy Adames, Rhys Hoskins, Jake Bauers. The power's been there this season. Really like Adames and Hoskins. Don't mind Contreras as well. Churio went yard, batting leadoff the other day, so obviously I prefer him batting leadoff than in the 7th hole. But I really like this Brewers team tonight. Facing Kyle Gibson. Then on the other side, I mean, I just don't see how you can play these Cardinals. They've been struggling all season long. They really haven't gotten their bats going. Then on the flip side, they're facing one of the better pitchers in the MLB. So, yeah, it's Brewers or busts for me tonight, Nades. Really like this Brewers team. Yeah, I think you could stack them up. I think you go 4-man on FanDuel, 5-man on DK if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I don't like a 5-man a ton just because I like the lefties the most. Jake Bauers, I think, is a great value play at 2,900 at first base. His power has been there. Gibson gets hit pretty hard by lefties. Sal Frelick, if he's in there, Bryce Terang. You got some cheap guys, so it's more mini stack for me. Then obviously Willy Adames, Rhys Hoskins, Contreras. I think you can play them any slate, especially Contreras the way he's hitting right now. So I do like these Brewers a little bit more mini stack for me, just because I like so many other offenses a lot. Right, Kansas City. I like Baltimore. Obviously, like the Braves. Obviously, like the Yankees here. We're going to talk about Coors Field here in a minute, actually next. So mini stacks for me on the Brewers, no Cardinals interest for me against Peralta. He's my SP1 on the slate. Throw it over to you. We're going to Colorado here. We're going to Coors Field. Let me just pull up the weather real quick. I know it's pretty cold there, but it's cold across the country. It's still Coors Field in all, though. While I pull up that weather, I'll kick it over to you. Rockies, Mariners, Hancock on the mound, Dakota Hudson on the mound, 2 guys that can't strike anybody out, get hit pretty hard. Talk about it. 2 below average offenses, I would say, but it is Coors Field, and it's against 2 pitchers that are very attackable. I think we would attack these pitchers no matter what park they were playing in here tonight. At least myself, I'd have a little interest. So touch on these Mariners, touch on the Rockies. Highest total on the slate by far. Both teams implied to score over 5 runs here.
Yeah, I forgot my boy Gator Nation. Gator Nation, you threw me off. I forgot you were another Wisconsin night with that Gator logo up there. Hey, I gave you some love too. With those, all my friends up there in Wisconsin, how are y'all doing? But man, Nades, I'm gonna go out on a limb tonight. I'm fading this game. I just am. Bad weather, cold weather, rainy weather. You said it, 2 bad offenses. It's gonna be popular. I think in GPPs, I'm gonna fade these guys. I just don't see how we can do it. I mean, they're bad offenses. There is a weather concern with the rain. There is the temperature. Yeah, I'm out on this game. I mean, obviously, if you're going to MME, I don't think you cross them out. But for me, for single entry and 3-max, I won't have any Rockies or any Mariners. I'm fading them, going to some big bats that I believe in, like the Braves and other big bats like that.
Yeah, I do have a little more interest. I just don't think the ownership's going to be there. I mean, everyone's looking at the weather, right? Temps in the 40s, rain concerns. It's the only game that RG and Roth and the crew over there have tagged as yellow on the slate. I mean, it's still the Mariners against Dakota Hudson, who can't strike anybody out. I mean, it's still guaranteed 27 outs as well. I do like these Mariners a lot more than I like the Rockies, but this is a spot where I wrote it in the slate plan. Typically, I'm not a Coors Field guy, but here tonight, I just don't think the ownership is what it typically is on a given slate for Coors Field, and that definitely, me being a tournament player, definitely sparks my interest a little bit more, just because I don't think the ownership is going to go there. I think the Dodgers are highly owned. I think the Braves. I think definitely the Yankees, right? I think that Kansas City-Baltimore game is going to be higher owned. So I do like this game quite a bit. I mean, I want the guys that have low ground ball rates against Dakota Hudson, because he is a ground ball pitcher. So Mitch Haniger, Cal Raleigh, Garver, Polanco is my 4 favorite guys. But throwing a Julio Rodriguez, right, a Ty France, Jonathan Clace there down in the 7 spot or 8 spot, wherever he does crack that lineup at 2,900 at outfield. So I like these Mariners quite a bit. Mariners are my favorite offense of the night. I'm not worried about it. I definitely do want to monitor the weather the closer we get to lock. But I'm not grabbing any pitchers here in the slate. So typically I don't worry about weather too much when I'm looking to stack up the offenses versus the pitchers. Really what you worry about with weather, especially rain, is the pitcher going out there in-game delay, and then the pitcher gets cooled down and doesn't come back out, whereas the hitters are going to be out there no matter what. So do like these Mariners quite a bit. Rockies I think are fine. I just don't have a ton of interest in these Rockets. My favorite bat would be Montero, hitting 5th here tonight at first base at 4,300, just a power guy, low strikeout guy. But outside of that, despite the 5+ implied run total here on the Rockies, I'm just out on the Rockies. I like many other offenses more. So Mariners or pass for me in that game. I do think the Rockies are fine, just like any time in Coors Field. And this is one of the most attackable spots I think we're going to see them in this year against Hancock here. Let's a couple games left here. Next game on the docket that I'm looking at here is Toronto and San Diego. Waldron on the mound. Yariel Rodriguez making his 2nd start, right? I definitely brought him up in terms of being 5K flat in this spot. But touch about bats. I know you mentioned a little bit having some interest in these Padres. Are you going to go against Rodriguez here, who's going to get some ownership as an SP2 on DraftKings, and stacking these Padres up, and then any Blue Jays against Waldron here for you?
Yeah, I think these Padres are sneaky tonight. I said it in the opening. Rodriguez making his first start of the season on the road, and these bats for the Padres, they have some power in there, right? They get to come home. I don't mind them as a sneaky contrarian stack if you were doing 20 teams, and then no Blue Jays for me. I mean, Waldron is not any good, but I'm just not stacking this Blue Jays teams. I don't think they can string enough hits together consecutively to beat me. So this will be a game that I'm lower on. I may have a team or two of Padres if I do 20, but really, really crossing this game off if I'm 3 max or less.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. I'm playing 2 teams tonight. I'm not going to stack up any of these or either side of this game. Definitely no Blue Jays for me. If I did have interest, it would be the Padres. Just this guy making a 2nd start, right? Has about a 13% barrel rate in his 1 start. Does have a good strikeout rate, but does struggle with some hard hits there. Now faces a lineup that's loaded with power, right? Tatis, Cronenworth, Machado would be kind of my favorite guys. Ha-Dong Kim there, but outside of that, not going to stack either side up. So I think we can move on here. Talk about it, right? We got 2 games left, and we're heading out to L.A. Friday Night Dodgers here against Sean Manaea, the Mets and the Dodgers in LA. Talk on this one. Dodgers implied to score over 5 runs here. Any interest?
Yeah, for me, when I'm stacking the Dodgers, I mean, you have to have the big boys, because if you stack down there in my opinion, when you stack down there, when you get down to 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, all those guys are going to be interchangeable. When you're talking about the Andy Pages, Kiki Hernandez, Miguel Rojas's of the world, they're going to be pitch hit for, right, if it gets out of hand. So if you're playing the Dodgers, it's got to be the likes of Mookie Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Will Smith, because I think those are the guys that are going to do the damage. They're going to play the entire game. And then what happens when you play those guys? You got to sacrifice at pitching. So for me, it's tough to stack this Dodgers team because, especially tonight, because there's not going to be enough pitching to get there. I think you could do a one-off. My favorite one-off is going to be Ohtani tonight for this Dodgers team. But as far as a full stack goes, I'm just not going to do it. And quite honestly, they haven't been hitting the ball that well. They got not shut out. Well, they did get shut out their last game, but they got kind of shut down by that vaunted Nationals pitching staff over the last 3 games. I think more of the same tonight. I think Manaea is probably better than anybody they just faced. So, yeah, so I'm completely out on this game, not stacking any of the Mets either.
Yeah, for me, it's just more mini stacks. It's just, man, like you said, right? Pages, Hernandez, Rojas, as soon as Manaea is out of there and a righty comes in, those guys are getting pinch hit for if this game is in reach still, or a close game, couple run game, right? The Dodgers are definitely going to pinch hit those guys likely. So for me, Mookie Betts, Will Smith are 2 of the best hitters in baseball, 2 great hitters against lefties. They are expensive, right? Will Smith, I think, is my favorite just because he's 4,700 at a catcher position, but Mookie Betts, always Mookie, right? You can never go wrong with him. Ohtani does smash lefties as well. Should be pretty low owned lefty at 6,300. Teo Hernandez. But for me, it's just mini stacks for the Dodgers. I just don't like the back half of that lineup enough to stack them up. And when you do full stack the squad, you do have to sacrifice at pitching. And it's not something I'm looking to do here tonight. So for me, it's going to be a slate where I'm a little bit underweight on the Dodgers outside of one-offs or mini stacks. Will Smith, Mookie Betts, my 2 favorite there. Throwing an Ohtani, throwing a Hernandez. Outside of that, not looking to deal with the pinch hit and possibly only 2 at-bats from the back half of that lineup. And then on the Mets, no Mets interest really for me. Brandon Nimmo, I think, is a solid guy. Projected to bat leadoff here. Power, low strikeouts against Yamamoto, who gets hit pretty hard but does have good strikeout ability. DJ Stewart, anytime he's facing a righty, I'll always bring him up. Value bat with some power at 2,700. But outside of that, no real interest there. Let's go to the last game of the night. And from a tournament standpoint, I do have some interest in stacking up these D-backs. Just like I said, all right, we mentioned multiple times, this is a team that I'm going to be playing quite a bit this season, power, speed throughout the lineup. And I love attacking Blake Snell here because things can go south for Blake Snell in a hurry here. Guaranteed 9th inning at bats, 27 outs to work with for Arizona. It is a low total overall, but man, there's not great hitting environments really across the slate outside of a few spots. I like some of these D-backs a little bit here as the late night hammer to bring us home. Talk on this one, D-backs, Giants to round up the slate.
I'm not going to talk about this one, Nades. 0% interest from anybody in this game. Decent pitchers, terrible ballpark, chilly night out in the Bay. No thank you for me. Take it away.
Yeah, it's just more, it's just always stacking more against Blake Snell is the reason I can bring it up. Ketel Marte, Walker, Suarez. It's not one of my favorite stacks. You got Blaze Alexander as well at 3,500 at shortstop to wrap it around. It's just more of a stacking against Blake Snell than stacking in the ballpark, stacking this offense. So D-backs, I do think are solid. I do like them. It's definitely in MME. I would have some D-backs 5-mans for sure against Blake Snell. It's not probably a main team stack or anything like that, but I do think the D-backs are an interesting offense here. It's just more stacking against Blake Snell. No Giants for me on the other side against Montgomery. I think Montgomery's a good enough real-life pitcher. We didn't have a ton of interest up at the top just because we like the guys around him, right? The Chris Sales, the Peraltas, the Joe Ryans of the world. So no Giants for me. But Hamwich, that's all 10 games. We talked pitching. We talked stacks. We answered some questions in the chat here. I'll throw it over to you, man. Your home run call of the evening before we get on out of here.
I should have known you would come to me. You put me on the spot. Let me pick you out one real quick. It's going to be – I'm going to go to I think this is our favorite game, Nades. I'm going to go to our favorite game, Coors Field 2.0. Give me some MJ Melendez to take Dean Kramer over the wall. Right center field, MJ Melendez, my home run call of the day.
Well, guess what? I'm going back to the same game here, Kauffman Stadium. I'm going to the other side of the dugout. I'm going to first base, outfield, dual position eligible, Ryan O'Hearn. He's in my core report over at the Nation, so there you go. You got one spot. You can probably build my pitchers out based on my pitcher breakdown, but I'm going Ryan O'Hearn, 3,600 here, slated to bat third for the Orioles. Love him. Smashes this. I think he smashes Marsh at least once here over the wall. So give me some Ryan O'Hearn tonight. Little 2-man power stack. Hopefully we see some fireworks there in Kansas City. Hamwich, any closing remarks for this Friday for the people before we get on out of here?
No, it should be good if you join late. I mean, Nades and I both have a tight pitcher pool tonight. I think I'm 4 deep, which is also our sponsor of the show. And Nades, I think, is right there behind me. I think those you got to keep it tight tonight. And then the stacks, we talked about all the stacks that we like. A lot of cold weather. Nades is on those Mariners. I'm fading those Mariners, so it should be an interesting conversation come Monday, Nades. I see my guy Michael. Hey, I'll call a truce on our Monday night bet with my guy Joe Musgrove. He got lit up for 3 runs in the first and settled down. So hey, that was a truce, Nades, on Monday. Yeah, but looking forward to the weekend. Looking forward to these games.
Yeah, Hamwich is 4 deep on the pitching, and if you guys want to be 4 deep as well, and check out the bets contact by Tommy G and the squad over there at 4 deep. Use that promo code SHIP. It gets you 20% off any membership over there. They continue to crush it. Beaten Vegas is their middle name over there. Use that promo code 20% off. And if you are a SHIPIT Nation subscriber, you do get a free week to try them out. Check what they have to offer. And if you want access to our content, including the slate plan, which has been up, the core reports, our projections, our starting lineups, advanced data, which is basically a one-stop shop to help build lineups, make decisions, answer roster construction questions. Use that promo code HOOP15. All access monthly pass, $58 a month, less than $2 a day. But good luck tonight in those contests. Hope to see those SHIPIT Nation logos at the top. For Hamwich, I'm Nadesify. Let's ship it.